We could talk about your music, because I have something of a music background, so we could probably go into more detail then.
Okay, what do you want to know?
Okay, well, it's obvious we can go for Varese, that's a well-known fact.
Well, I would say that all well-known facts about who and what I go for are well-known because I wrote it on the back of an album cover one time. I would say 9/10 of the people who attribute those influences to me wouldn't know the difference unless I had told them in writing where the influences came from.
Okay, but I mean, there's specific pieces that obviously influenced you besides, I mean, like, there's things out of Lumpy Gravy where it sounds like it's, I don't know if you're trying to approximate like a piece like L'Histoire du Soldat, that one. There's the one section in there that's very similar to that.
In Lumpy Gravy?
I think so.
No, there are sections in Lumpy Gravy that are very similar to Varese, but I don't think there's anything in Lumpy Gravy that's similar to L'Histoire du Soldat.
Okay, well,
in Burnt Weenie Sandwich, there is a piece that's similar to L'Histoire du Soldat, and it's called Igor's Boogie, and it's dedicated to Stravinsky.
Oh, right. No, that sounds more like his wind music than L'Histoire du Soldat.
I would say that it comes closer to L'Histoire du Soldat based on the intervals that are used in it.
Okay.
And by the fact that they do have wind instruments in that piece.
Well, true. Okay.
And not a lot of them, and because Igor's Boogie is a woodwind trio for a flugelhorn, clarinet, and soprano saxophone.
I was thinking more like the really percussive sections.
Stravinsky was never really that heavy in terms of percussive writing.
You don't think his piano is percussive?
It may be percussive because he indicates somebody to play staccato and bang away on a bunch of rhythms on there, but I wouldn't call him a master of percussion up against Varese. It comes off sort of Lawrence Welky,
Yeah. No, I just think he treats instruments like the piano more like a percussion instrument than a melodic instrument.
I don't know all of his piano music, so I couldn't judge that. I'm more familiar with other people's piano music. But,
like?
I like Ravel's piano music, and I like Ravel's piano music.
You like Stockhausen?
I have the collected piano works of Stockhausen, and I used to listen to it a lot when I was living in New York because it suited my mood then. I was more of a werewolf in those days, and it had more of an appeal to me, and I haven't listened to it for 2 years. I desire to even open the box.
Okay. There's
However, I like to look at Stockhausen's piano music on paper. I think graphically it's very adorable.
True.
Just thinking of all the many hours that Mr. Kantarsky must have spent trying to count that sucker and make it all happen.
Well, there's lots of. Have you ever seen any Larry Austin around here has done a lot of things with. Just about every avant-garde composer is doing things with different graphics, but he's done some that are just kind of really far out, where just spaces them all over the place. And Cage, is just. I would liken more to you than anybody else, I think.
Cage?
Yeah.
Well, I don't like the sound of Cage's music very much. I mean, I can take it up to a point, but it's not something that I really enjoy listening to. However, his Zen theoretical, musical, philosophical concepts are very intriguing to me, and I think I've been more influenced by his conceptual side than from his musical.
Well, that's, I think, Cage's point, though. I mean, his music is not the point of interest.
Perhaps not, but perhaps it is the point of interest, but it's not the point of interest, but perhaps it's...
Okay. Are you into doing some more big pieces like Lumpy Gravy or...
The 200 Motels album will be out in about 6 weeks, and I would say most of the material on that album is a 96-piece orchestra.
96? The Mahler,
It would have been, well, that wasn't even what the score called for. We had to economize, and the thing that was cut back was the amount of strings, but it had there were 7 percussionists plus an orchestra drum set, playing a total of about 110 different percussion instruments, including 2 enormous Verdi bass drums that were single-headed bass drums.
Where'd you find those?
In London.
Wow.
Giant. mammies. And it was 4 deep in the winds and 8 French horns. It was a pretty splendid orchestra. However, it doesn't have the kind of weight that I would like it to have because they had to cut back on the strings in order to match this budget that we were working on. It would have been about 120 some pieces if they had the right amount of strings.
Is it strictly instrumental, or do you have lots of weird little...
For the first time, I will unleash upon the world my choral music.
Ah, fantastic. All right.
However, the chorus was not exactly what you call an enormous chorus. We had 20 voices, and they were singing American texts with English accents, which in some instances tended to neutralize the effect of the way that things were supposed to be pronounced and inflected. And you couldn't really teach them how to say some of the things that were in the score. But they did as well as you could expect with a situation like that. Side 4 of the album has a whole bunch of strange choral events on it. And all the rest of the orchestra music is it's assorted in styles and reasons for its existence, all performing different functions in the film.
Okay, film, when does that come out?
November. Approximately November 15th. I'll show you. You want to see the booklet from the film?
Yeah. This is the first time that you've had a film really released, right?
Yeah. I'm sure that people probably have heard rumors on and off about various film projects that I was either starting or trying to get financing for, or so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But at last, United Artists. This is the booklet that comes in the album.
What is that?
That is exactly what the film is supposed to be. What is that?
It looks like a parachute swing thing, or a
It's
practice.
a brown leather harness.
Okay, but I mean, it's got strings. Does he swing up and down?
He was, well, in the score it says that somewhere on page 6 that the dwarf, Ringo was playing the role of Larry the Dwarf, and it says lower the dwarf, so the dwarf has to descend into the orchestra with this descending music.
And your descending music is just descending music, or is there any other?
Well, it's special descending music. And then there's a text that's in the score that the narrator has to say to Larry the Dwarf, and things that Larry the Dwarf has to say back to him. And
This is the most elaborate one you've come out with. Theodore Bickel's? Wow. Who backed this?
United Artists. Total budget was $679,000.
Frank at rehearsal. Okay, question. Are you, is this the kind of thing you want to do more of, or is it just a one-time thing, or do you know yet?
No, I've always been interested in film since about 1958, but it's easier to make a record than it is to make a movie because it's cheaper.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
well, you could make short movies.
I don't like short movies. I like epics. I like things that are connected together just the way life is connected together. Each day is connected to the next day. It's not like the beginning and the end of a movie. And so I think that the works of art that I like to be involved in should all be connected to each other by some sort of linkage, so it carries through and bears a more of a resemblance to life as I see it and experience it, or just a phasing in and out of the fantasies that I have, or sort of documentary reportage of the fantasies of other people, which is part of what's in 200 Motels, because a lot of the material is based on the folklore of the group, and so we took this folklore and just staged it and fantasized it and blew it up.
Is anything actually taken from like tours, or was it all put together afterwards?
No, it's not like a Joe Cocker movie. This is a surrealistic fantasy. It's the first feature film shot with videotape.
How come we videotape?
Well, we found out that it was feasible to do this. A lot of people experimented with videotape systems in the United States and have said, oh, it looks shitty when you transfer it to color film, but they didn't know that over there they have a different system. And it comes out groovy on color film.
London?
Yeah.
Far out. Well, I know there's a lot of short films that are done videotape, but I've never seen them in color.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's an example. These are actual frames from the film here.
Sound of
These two things here are part of some very heavily optical things there in the film. And if you can imagine that wasn't a multiple exposure of 3 levels, it would be a clear picture. You can hardly tell any scan lines in the picture at all.
Hi.
Hi.
Same thing.
Yeah. Put a tip on here.
I appreciate your food. Okay, thank you very much. Anything else, Frank? Okay, fine.
Oh, do you have a bar service up to the rooms too?
Yes.
You sell bottles?
That's the only we have is like Slits, Lucky, and Lone Bro.
No, either of those will kill me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay then.
Okay. So you're into music, thrills, chills. I don't know how to classify your music in anything other than like something like opera or or theater with music, because it doesn't fit into anything else that I know of.
When was the last time you saw the Mothers of Invention?
I have never seen the Mothers of Invention.
And how do you know what we do?
Reports from other people.
Do you believe everything you read in the newspapers?
No.
Do you believe everything you hear on the radio?
No.
Do you believe everything you see on television?
No.
Do you believe your friends when they tell you what we do?
Sometimes. Bad? All
You're
right,
gonna
tell
come-
me what you do.
I'm not going to tell you what we do. You're going to come to the show and look at it,
Mm-hmm.
and then find out what we do.
Okay.
Bet you'd be surprised.
Yes. Okay. You do not want to talk about what you do. Are you gonna keep changing your group around? Or is it?
I don't change my group around because I like to change my group around. Most of the time, those changes are inflicted on me by various other situations.
Like people leaving for other groups?
Yeah. George Duke, who used to play with us,
Yeah, he's local from here.
yeah, he's now with Cannonball Adderley. He left because he wanted to get back into playing jazz. So in order to fill his shoes, which was not very easy, we tried out one guy named Bob Harris. He did 2 tours with us, and he's on that Fillmore album, but he didn't work out in terms of compatibility with the rest of the guys in the group. So he left, and now Don Preston's back in the group. This will be Don's first tour with us. In other words, every time we change a person in the group, the sound of the group changes completely, and we have to go in and have a bunch of rehearsals to learn all of our same songs over again. But they never come out the same
Right.
because of the new guy. So in a way that's good because things get refined, and usually the refinements are beneficial to the pieces. But what you're going to see this evening is a brand new band. We've only played one other job, and that was at the Poly Pavilion in Los Angeles.
Oh, that was that's right. If we can, I know music isn't your whole life, or maybe not. Maybe it is. What other kinds of things are you interested in? Miles says, okay, you should ask him a question like that because he's very well read, and he wants the public to know about what goes on inside of his head.
Well, you can thank Miles very much.
But no thanks.
I don't think the public really wants to know what goes on inside of my head. And I don't think I really want to tell them. Only insofar as it may assist the people who listen to the music to enjoy the music, because that's the only public side of what I do, besides the film stuff. The rest of it is completely none of anybody's business.
Okay, are you, back to music then, I remember reading one thing about you getting some large, the Laurel Canyon dance troupe or something. Are you going in for really whole large-scale things, or that's just for films, or?
Well, as a matter of fact, if things go well tonight, we're going to have our own Cotati branch of the Laurel Canyon Ballet Company on stage with us this evening.
From Santa Rosa area?
You know where Cotati is?
Yeah, right.
Good. I don't know where it is, but that's where they're from.
It's about 40 miles north there. They've got a same kind of a improvised dance group?
Yes. They are the people who originally were in Los Angeles that moved up here. Maybe you know Vito and his little cult that he has up there. You know? Great. Should be an interesting program this evening.
You don't know what's happening yet, right?
Well, as far as them, they sent me a letter and they asked for permission to dance, and I sent them a telegram saying, permission granted, come on down. So I plan on having them, if we do an encore, they'll do it during the encore part of the show, because the rest of the show is so structured, it would be a little bit inconvenient to put it during the normal part.
Structured like, for impact, or just because you want certain pieces to follow with the pieces, or for,
Well, both. I think that it's the best thing that you can do to an audience with material like this is to lead them through it in a way that they're going to get the maximum erotic and otherwise gratification out of it.